Good afternoon or good evening and shalom. My name is Judy Friedman Kadish, and I am the Director of Americans for a Safe Israel. Thank you for coming, and I see from the entry that we have many distinguished guests, and I'm so happy that you are all here. And it's my honor to welcome you to AFCE's annual Zev Jabotinsky Memorial. We're gathered here to commemorate the extraordinary life and legacy of Vladimir Zev Jabotinsky and celebrate his message of an iron wall in the Middle East. Jabotinsky introduced us to the iron wall as a defense against the rise of Arab nationalism. However, I'm here to tell you something that some of you know and some will be alarmed by. I think probably by this time everybody knows that Israel's security is currently under attack and in jeopardy. And so the picture of what I see when I look at Israel is to the north is Hezbollah, armed to the tooth by Iran. The arsenal of weapons they have ready is just beyond belief. To the east is Jordan, and though Israel signed a peace agreement with Jordan, Jordan is not cooperating with Har Habayit, or with the Temple Mount, and also continues to vote against Israel at all UN sessions. To the east is Iran. In short, Iran is the great father of all terrorist funding. This terrorist state continues to get stronger by pursuing nuclear capabilities. It totally disregarded the agreement that it signed, and the fact that there's another agreement under consideration is unbelievable. But its ability to fund terror is no doubt helped by the US and the EU. And in the center, there are Palestinian Arabs and the Temple Mount. The number of Jews visiting the Temple Mount has increased greatly due to organizations like Biadenu, who are constantly encouraging ascension and providing knowledgeable guides. But still, only Arabs are permitted to pray in the Jewish people's holiest site. But maybe the worst threat at this moment is the disunity among the people of Israel and all of Am Yisrael. We must stand united as one people, as Hashem wants us to be. By showing disunity, we radiate a sense of weakness, which causes our enemies to have added confidence in their victory. Victory for terrorists, victory for false narratives, and victory to more years of terror. Strength is what survives in the Middle East. Strength in power, strength in culture, and strength in identity. And of course, I don't know how many of you saw the covers of the various newspapers that were published today after the judicial reform vote was passed. Many newspapers, including Israel Hayom, of course, Haaretz, but some of them, surprisingly, had just black on the cover of their newspapers. And this is mainstream media. What the committee is doing, and this is what they were elected to do, is to have judicial reform. And the fact that there are a small percentage of people who are acting up and really making it seem as if the whole country is against it is really a shame. Israel's declaration states clearly that they, and I quote, will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all our inhabitants, regardless of religion, race, or race. The iron wall Jabotinsky envisioned and Israel has created with the IDF faces this threat of destruction by radical terrorist groups in the Middle East, by left-leaning BDS groups, by false Palestinian narratives sweeping the newspapers today, and now by IDF pilots who threaten not to fight for Israel with the recent passage of this judicial reform bill. Israel, a small, young state, is a shining example of a nation that didn't survive, but has thrived and reached heights that were inconceivable to survivors of the Holocaust. Israel is their story, Israel is our story, and Israel is your story. And we cannot let radical groups destroy it. Israel needs your help, and we need your help. So I ask you to please join AFSI in Israel's fight for join AFSI on our Facebook missions to Israel and see firsthand why Judea and Samaria are crucial for a strong, safe, and defensible Israel. Join AFSI in the fight, defending the voice of the unsung heroes who protect Israel by living with their families in areas of Judea and Samaria that others might consider too dangerous. They protect us on the front lines with their presence and their fortitude. Let us defend them by having their backs. Imagine what we could do if, as in the days of Beitar in America, we could come together to raise our voices for Israel. So please join AFSI in safeguarding Zev Jabotinsky's Iron Wall by becoming members in the greater AFSI community. Become a member and help guarantee that Israel has a voice in the survival of a nation. Israel has the oldest and richest historical impact on the world today. Let us make sure that Israel continues to spread light onto this world and create the unimaginable. Visit our website at www.afsi.org or contact me directly at judy@afsi.org for more information on how you can help. Thank you for allowing me the time today. And we're now going to go into the meat of this program. And first, we have the very acclaimed Rabbi, Zevi Muller from Westside Institutional, who will sing the Kel Mole for Zev Jabotinsky. Zevi? Did he walk away? Oh, Zevi.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. No, I was unable to unmute myself. Thank you for these warm words.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll recite the Kel Mole, and just to say the Jewish name of Zev Jabotinsky was Ze'ev, and his father was Yonah, which I will use. Eile male rachamim, shochein meromim, hametzei menucha nechona, ale kanefei השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מאירים ומזהירים. את נשמת חוזה ישראל, המנהיג הדגול, זאב בן יונה ז'בוטינסקי, שהלך לעולמו. בעבור שאנחנו ההולכים בדרכיו, מתפללים ביד אזכרת נשמתו. בגן עדן, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו. ונאמר Amen.
Amen. That was such beautiful, heartfelt song. It just really, really speaks to, the situation. So thank you so, so much for helping us.
Thank you.
with
Thank
this.
you for everything.
Really, and for a neuroscientist and cantor, it's an amazing combination. So we really thank you very so much. And now we're going to go on with the program by singing the national anthems of the United States and of course, Israel.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early lights what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose first stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallant. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner o'er land and the
And now we have with us Wilma Friedman, who will have the words to Hatikva up on the screen. But Wilma, can you unmute yourself? There you are. Asked to unmute. Okay.
Nefesh Yehudi Omiyah Ulfatem Yisrach Kadima Ein Letzion Sophia Od lo lamda tikvatenu Atikvadat shnot alpayim Kliotam choshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim Liotam chofshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
Thank you so much, Wilma. That was beautiful. Another singing neuroscientist. And of course, a Beitari. So the next part of this program is we have a very special man who is well known to all American Betaris. His name is Lawrence Chariton, and he's going to speak to us about Jabotinsky and his impact and his legacy. So, Larry, are you unmuted?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You may want to tilt your screen a little bit so that we get your whole face. Okay, there you go. But then I didn't hear you. Now you're muted again. Okay, you shouldn't be muted now.
Okay. I would like to begin this Jabotinsky remembrance, his yahrzeit, thanking you, Judy, the daughter of Helen Friedman, because Lador, from generation to generation, American Friends for a Safe Israel have made this event happen and make it a happening. This is no simple accomplishment, and I thank you, Judy, and Americans for a Safe Israel for the opportunity to share with you words about one of the most influential Jewish leaders from October 18th, 1880, his birth in Odessa, Ukraine, till today and into the future. Growing up, I heard a lot about GOATs in America, the greatest of all time. We debated who is the GOAT of basketball. Was it Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, or Michael Jordan? Who is the GOAT of baseball? Was it Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Hank Aaron, Sandy Koufax, Willie Mays, or Mickey Mantle? In my humble opinion, speaking here today, taking a look at history and looking to the future, the GOAT of the Zionist movement, who sometimes was treated like a GOAT, the greatest of all time Zionist leader, was Zev Jabotinsky. There may be many that would debate this, but there is one key point that proves him to be not only one of the greatest of all time, literally, of the Zionist movement, and today, the greatest of all time, most influential leader of the Zionist movement. When we hear the phrase from our creator, Hashem, he took us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, we think of Passover. We think of the Passover Seder, and we think of the song Dayenu. It would have been enough. Dayenu. It would have been enough if Jabotinsky gave us only one of his achievements, gave us only one of his accomplishments during his lifetime, only one of his principles like Hadar, Tagar, the importance of Jewish self-defense. But there are many Dayenus in the lifetime of Zev Jabotinsky, and I'd like to share with you a few. Dayenu. It would have been enough when, after the murderous government-sponsored pogrom in 1903 in Kishinev, Ukraine, that Jabotinsky became a pivotal force and organized the first Jewish self-defense group in Tsarist Russia. Dayenu. It would have been enough that Jabotinsky became the leading Jewish advocate that being book smart was not enough when it came to Jewish self-defense. Jewish self-defense became the epicenter of the ideas he shared with all of us. Jabotinsky made it clear it was a physical imperative, learning to be able to defend ourselves. It was also a wellspring of Jewish pride and self-confidence that was unleashed from within us. He taught the Jews in the diaspora that they cannot depend on anyone else to defend themselves from attack. Only themselves are the ones they can depend on. Jabotinsky, with each Jewish defense group he created, looked to teach Jews to defend themselves with their own hands, with knives, with pistols, with rifles, with shotguns. This has actually led Israel to be one of the leading innovators in self-defense and defense of nationhood. Dayenu. It would have been enough in 1915 if Jabotinsky proposed to the British to bring a newly created Jewish fighting force to fight together against the Turks and force them out of the future state of Israel. The British did agree to Jabotinsky's request, and the Jews became a regiment that served in the transportation of mules for the British military. The Zion Mule Corps became a unit with Joseph Trumpeldor as its Jewish leader, supporting the British in their fight against the Turks. Fighting to establish the Jewish state with the British would earn us a right to demand the future Jewish state in Israel. Dayenu. It would have been enough in 1917 that Jabotinsky created the first organized Jewish fighting units in 1,800 years, the Jewish Legion, to fight alongside the British in order to force the Turks out of what would become modern-day nation of Israel. Jabotinsky began as a private. He was promoted to a lieutenant, and he became a spirited military leader as a commander of the first company to cross the Jordan River during World War I in pursuit of the Turkish army. Dayenu. It would have been enough if Jabotinsky wrote the essay, The Iron Wall, in 1923, and established a Jewish doctrine, an Israeli doctrine, that peace would arrive for the Jews living in Israel as a people and a nation. When would that peace arrive? Jabotinsky said peace will come with the Arab population within Israel and her enemies surrounding Israel when those people fully understood the Jews have an iron wall defense to protect themselves and cannot be forced out of Israel. Each attack against the Jewish people will be answered with a more powerful attack against the attackers. When the attackers, when the Arabs, when the people living within Israel that have a hatred for Israel and the enemies outside of Israel understand that the iron wall, the iron will of the Jewish people can't be crushed or defeated, they will make peace and live side by side with the citizens of Israel, the nation of Israel, as neighbors. And that life and peace will benefit them immensely, and it will improve the quality of life of the Arabs living as neighbors. This is the Jabotinsky peace plan. That essay alone, The Iron Wall, is enough of a lifetime contribution to the national defense of Israel by Jabotinsky. Dayenu, that would have been enough. It would have been enough in 1923 in Riga, Latvia, when Zev Jabotinsky founded the Beitar youth movement with Aaron Propus as the first Beitari. As the 9th of Av approaches, we remember that the Jewish rebels against Roman rule were brutally butchered in the final battle of Beitar on the 9th of Av, and they fell in the year 135 of the Common Era to the Roman attackers. Beitar became a rallying cry for Jewish youth around the world. Jewish youth in Beitar learned to defend themselves in a military manner, preparing for Aliyah to the future Jewish homeland, where they would all join for the Jewish nation in the fight. Badam ve'esh, with blood and fire and sweat will arise a nation, proud, generous, and fierce people among the world of nations. This is what we were taught in Beitar. Yodefet, Masada, and Beitar will never fall again. The rallying cry of Beitar, Dayenu. Dayenu. It would have been enough by the late 1930s that there were 50,000 Polish Jews active in the Beitar youth movement, and Menachem Begin was the leading commander of the Beitar movement in Poland. From there, he mobilized daily Jews to move from Poland to Israel and continue their role in fighting for the establishment of the nation of Israel. Great devotion and contribution Beitar and Poland made towards the fight for the establishment of Israel. Dayenu, it would have been enough if at that time Jabotinsky created and founded the Aliyah Bet movement, designed to break the immigration restrictions placed on Jews by the British and made immigration to Israel illegal. A dramatic, intricate rescue liberation operation designed by Jabotinsky to bring over 30 ships setting sail from European ports to bring thousands of Jews to Israel. Because of this, thousands and thousands of Jews made it to Israel to become fighters in the liberation of Israel, creating the state and becoming citizens of the future state of Israel. Dayenu. It would have been enough that in 1937, Beitar members formed Plugat HaKotel, a defense group protecting Jews that were being attacked at prayer at the wall. They guarded in the old city using concealed arms and clubs and accompanied Jewish worshipers to the wall to pray. Beitar members were responsible for blowing shofar at the Western Wall, which was deemed illegal by the British. Dayenu. It would have been enough if Jabotinsky used his powerful, moving skills as a public speaker and continued in speech after speech to declare, liquidate the diaspora before the diaspora will liquidate you. Many say today that Jabotinsky was a visionary with those words. He saw the future of the Jewish people. Menachem Begin said in 1940, a cry went out up to heaven, the likes of which had not been heard since Hashem created man and man created the devil. Why had we not listened to the call of Jabotinsky? For indeed, when the masses were standing on the brink of the abyss, it was he who appeared before them as a man bearing the message of redemption, a redemption song that pointed the way to rescue. However, so many of them were led astray by their leaders, and they refused to listen to Jabotinsky's call to make Aliyah to Israel. During the days of the Holocaust and destruction and subjugation, we did Beit Tarim, as you commanded us to do. We arose, we revolted, and we conquered. Even though the road may be long and difficult, we shall continue to carry out your teachings, the integrity of the homeland, the return to Zion, the unity of the Jewish people, freedom for the individual, justice in society. Until our last days on earth, with the help of Hashem, we shall implement the principles of Jabotinsky and Beitar. It would have been enough if Jabotinsky shared his famous words that inspired Begin, Beitar, Irgun, the Lehi leaders in the Battle of Israel. Lamut or Likbosh et Har, Yodefet Masada Beitar. To die or conquer the hill, Yodefet, Masada, and Beitar. There are some good Jewish leaders who have had dreams, have had visions, and encouraged them, and created followers of their dreams to become leaders, to turn those dreams, visions, and missions into reality. Those leaders created followers. What sets Zev Jabotinsky apart, and above all other Jewish leaders from 1880 till today, something very special. It's that his dreams and plans for the Jewish people and the rebirth of the nation were very, very believable. He was dynamic. He had a focused plan on how to recreate the Jewish state. Those plans, when Jabotinsky created Beitar, created a franchise Jewish movement that gave birth and continues to give birth to many of the greatest Jewish leaders of Israel in the past, in the present, and into the future. The continuity of Jabotinsky's ideals coming from the leaders of his Beitar children, his Beitar movement, created what makes Jabotinsky the greatest of all time Jewish leader. It is the leaders that were born from Beitar to continue to light the torch from Israel outward unto the world's nations. This Jabotinsky Yortzeit memorial of his passing, when he passed, with Beit Turim children and campus in Camp Beitar in Hunter, New York, is not only a Yortzeit, it's a celebration of the greatest Jewish leaders that were born from the principles of Jabotinsky and his Beitar principles. Time only allows me to speak about some of the leaders born from Beitar who made Jabotinsky become the greatest Jewish leader of all time, and they're described here. I had the honor of meeting with Menachem Begin in Mitzvah Ramon, Israel, at an event celebrating the progress of this developer town. He was a prince of Beitar, standing strong in a suit and tie, a regal example of Hadar in desert heat. To this day, my children make fun of me when I wear a suit so often. Maybe I got it from Begin. Begin, in my eyes, is one of the greatest leaders of Israel because he did everything with full of integrity. Menachem Begin was born from Beitar. He became leader of Beitar Poland in the 1930s. He made Aliyah from Beitar Poland into Israel before it became a Jewish state. He changed his identity secretly to Rabbi Sassover and became the leader of the Irgun. He was leader of the Irgun underground fighters of the Irgun, who he led in the revolt against the British for the liberation of the state of Israel. Begin was responsible for much of the success in the establishment of the state of Israel from his leadership in the Irgun. He then became the leader of the Cherut Party, the continuity of the Irgun and the new nation of Israel. From there, Begin became the leader of the Likud Party, and Menachem Begin was elected to the prime minister of Israel. He ordered the Israeli Air Force that successfully destroyed the nuclear reactor that Saddam Hussein and the French were building to create nuclear bombs. Menachem Begin went from being a victim of the Holocaust to a victorious leader of the state of Israel. Leadership was born from Begin, from Beitar, that Jabotinsky created in the name of Menachem Begin. I had the honor to meet Yitzhak Shamir in his hotel room on a Sunday morning with Gershon Stav, his secretary in New York, immediately after he lost his elections to return as the current prime minister. He was short in stature, but his command of the principles of Beitar, it made me feel like I was standing in front of Samson. Although he was in his 60s, he possessed a youthful Beitar ruach and intensity when he spoke. Yitzhak Shamir became a member in Beitar Poland. He then became a leader of Beitar Poland and was inspired by the principles of Beitar to make Aliyah to Israel. When he made Aliyah to Israel, Shamir did not have a desk job in the Jewish fight to establish a modern-day state of Israel. He joined the Irgun in 1937 and was a leader of the underground to fight to establish for the state of Israel. When the start of World War II became, Yitzhak Shamir switched with trepidation from the Irgun to the Lehi underground fighting group, and he became the leader of the Lehi. After the establishment of the state of Israel, he became a Secret Service operative in the Mossad in Europe until 1965. He joined with Menachem Begin in the Cherut movement and formed a coalition to become the Likud. Yitzhak Shamir became the Speaker of the Knesset after the Likud election in 1977, and Yitzhak Shamir became the Prime Minister of Israel in 1983. Shamir was born out of Beitar, inspired by Jabotinsky and Beitar ideals to become a great leader of the Jewish state of Israel. Ben Zion Netanyahu was born in Warsaw, Poland. He was an activist in the Zionist movement, the revisionist Zionist movement in Beitar Poland. He lobbied for the support of the creation of the state of Israel in the United States. He was the personal secretary of Zev Jabotinsky, and he wrote a historical masterpiece on the Jews of Spain and their persecution. Another great Jewish leader born from Beitar, Moshe Aarons, an activist, a leader of the Beitar youth movement. He made Aliyah to Israel. He joined the Irgun. He became the Israeli ambassador to the United States and a mentor to his assistant, Benjamin Netanyahu. Moshe Aarons became the Israel Minister of Defense, became the Israel Minister of Foreign Affairs, a great leader of Israel in defending Israel and the ambassadorship of Israel onto the other nations. Moshe Aaron was born from Beitar. Yoni Netanyahu, son of Ben-Zion Netanyahu, Zev Jabotinsky's personal secretary. Yoni was a leader and commander of countless missions of the IDF. He died on July 4th, 1976, leading one of the most extraordinary life-saving missions against terrorists of all time in Entebbe, Uganda. He was the commander of this daring, complicated mission that the state of Israel, and it displayed that the state of Israel will go to all lengths to protect and save Jewish lives all over the world. Yoni said, if we do not do it, no one else will. Netanyahu was a great Israeli military leader. He was born from Beitar ideology. I had the honor to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu when he was Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. He asked me to visit him to talk with him about a note I sent him that my wife, Lori, and I decided to name our firstborn son after his brother, Jonathan. In my letter to Bibi Netanyahu, I shared that his brother was a hero that American youth could look up to and aspire to follow. Jewish boys could connect much easier with the current actions of Yoni Netanyahu than Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, and even Moshe. As a young boy, my sons, Yoni, Jordan, and Jared, watched 90 Minutes at Entebbe often. My son Yoni, after graduating Binghamton University, he and his fraternity brother and friend Matt Belsky served in a fighting units of the IDF. We never spoke about it, but I'm sure my son respected being named after Yoni Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, the son of Ben-Zion Netanyahu, the personal secretary of Jabotinsky. He was the leader in many missions of Sayeret of the IDF. He was the Israel ambassador to the United Nations. He was the Israel Minister of Finance. He was the Israel Minister of Defense. He was the Prime Minister of Israel. He is the longest leader to serve as Prime Minister of Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, born from Beitar, a powerful ambassador to the world, representing the Jewish people. Rabbi Meir Kahane, Jewish defense leader, founder in 1946. Kahane joined Beitar. He trained to self-defense and learned to use weapons. He was involved in Beitar activities, packing guns, shipping them to Jews fighting in the future state of Israel. Became famous for self-defense group and founding the Jewish Defense League, instilling pride in Jews for Jews to protect themselves. JDL modeled itself after Beitar. On this day, it really is impossible when speaking of the great Jewish leaders to be born from Beitar, if I did not speak of maybe the greatest of all time Zionist leaders for me personally, speaking of Barry Dov Lieben. When my mother and father sent the Sheraton children to Camp Beitar, I must tell you, this was not my first choice. If you sent me to a basketball camp, a baseball camp, any other camp but a Jewish camp, I would have been happy. Barry Lieben met me and the Charitons at the bottom of the Camp Beitar hill, and he shared by example that it could be fun to be a Jew. Not just any Jew, but a Beitar Jew in Camp Beitar. Barry Lieben began as the head of Camp Beitar at a very young age. He was the Rosh Hanagar of USA Beitar. He inspired campers and future members of Beitar to enjoy a camp learning about Israel, about Jewish self-defense, about Jewish pride, about Jewish ruach, about Jewish athletes, about Jews who make the impossible possible. There is a proverb that says, if you save one life, it is as if you save the world. Ron Edelstein of the Edelstein family was similar. He went to Camp Beitar, he became a Beitari, and his family had survived the horrors of the Holocaust in Europe. His father made the choice, like my father, of sending his kids to Camp Beitar and putting his children in the hands of Barry Lieben to instill the moach, the koach, the ruach of Beitar that was missing from the lives of his children. Barry shared the gifts of Jabotinsky, the ideals of Beitar with campers and counselors, chanechim and madruchim, in a way that parents could just not do. Barry made it fun to be born not in Brooklyn, not in Fairlawn, not in Forest Hills, not in Washington Heights, but to be born from Beitar. The demonstrations Barry led for Israel, for Soviet Jews, for Syrian Jews, for Jewish self-defense, against the PLO, against Yasser Arafat, the list goes on. The people, the Beitarim that were inspired to make Aliyah to Israel by Barry and continue in their Beitar ways, from Bobby Brown to Gary Siegel, to Jonathan Behar, to his sister Leah, to Shari, to Jane, to Steve, to Carol, to Charlie, to Elka, to Mitch, to Jonathan Friedman. Barry followed in the footsteps of Jeb Jabotinsky and was the greatest of all time leaders of the Zionist movement in Israel, in America. On this day, we remember Rosh Beitar Zev Jabotinsky. We remember the principles he introduced to the world. Hadar, Hadar, Yodefet, Masada, Beitar, the Iron Wall, belief in one mission, his visionary speeches that European Jews were headed for catastrophe, and there was a need to liquidate the diaspora before the diaspora liquidated us. Aliyah to Israel now. He believed the nation of Israel could only be recreated with force, and his commitment to the establishment of that force was unwavering. I believe Zev Jabotinsky to be the greatest of all time Zionist leaders. His Beitar created brothers in Beitar, a brotherhood of Beitar leaders. Jabotinsky's success is because he gave birth not only to followers of Beitar, he gave birth to the ultimate leaders of Beitar and Israel from the ideology that Jabotinsky wrote and Beitar stood for. This is why we are thankful. This is what we are thankful for on the memorial of Zev Jabotinsky's passings. We celebrate Jabotinsky and the Beitar leaders that carried out his Zionist ideals that gave birth to the state of Israel. Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chatzeh. May we continue to be strengthened by Zev Jabotinsky and the principles of his Beitar youth movement that remain a foundation of the great leaders of Israel. Tel Chai and Am Yisrael Chai.
Todah Rabah. That was a beautiful tribute. And I think you taught us quite a bit about the life and the times and the spirit of Jabotinsky. And I can only say that, you know, it makes me wonder how it died out. I mean, I know World Beitar is still active, and I know in Israel it's still a very vibrant organization. But where do we find another Barry Liebman? Or don't we?
There is definitely another Barry Liebman in the midst of New York City. Maybe this Jabotinsky Memorial will not only be an event, but it can be a happening that will inspire someone or many to step up and take that role together with the American Friends of a Safe Israel to continue following in the footsteps of these great Jewish leaders and continuing to follow in the footsteps of Jabotinsky. That would be the chiefest joy of a meeting like this, that to celebrate a starting point to continue to do what's needed to be done for the Jewish people and to help defend the state of Israel.
Thanks. Do you mind if I ask some questions that came in from the audience?
No problem.
Okay. Pesach Rogaway asks, what in Jabotinsky's ideology has had a direct effect on Beitar members? Which of those points had the greatest effect on you? As a member of Beitar leadership, what do you think Jabotinsky would be proudest of today?
I think Jabotinsky would be proudest of the ruach, the spirit that Beitar, Camp Beitar engraved in the heart and on the mind and the soul of people who went to Camp Beitar. Camp Beitar was a wonderful place. It was a fun place. It was a crazy place. But once you've been to Camp Beitar and you've learned the ideals of Beitar and what makes it special to be a Jewish person with pride, with a princely feeling of goodness and confidence in oneself, it's something that Wilma said, once a Beitari, always Beitari. I think Jabotinsky would be most proud that the ruach that he instilled in the Jewish people is something that when you're a Beitari, it stays with you forever. And the key part of why Jabotinsky, in what I shared today, is the greatest Jewish leader is not because of himself. It's how he inspired people to continue the story, to continue the desire to follow his principles and build a better Israel.
Thanks. Reuben Gordon asks, knowing that there's a growing number of blatant elected Democrat Jew haters in the Congress, but the number of Jew-hating Democrat voters grows every day as older Democrats age out, replaced by young Jewish, quote unquote, progressives. And finally, that Israel supporting Republicans, mostly Christians, desperately need our help and support to save American freedom and to pass their beliefs on to their children. Why do intelligent Jews, I'm sorry, continue to vote for Democrats? I
And
didn't
you know, Yudea,
political question.
it is very hard. Sometimes it is said that you can never understand the steps that another person walks in. It's there are many people, not necessarily Jewish, that question often how can the Jewish people support a party that seems to be out of sync with protecting and out of Israel and seems to be just, it seems sometimes very clear that the Democratic Party is wandering away from the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Why people vote for them? There's a very famous former congressman in Brooklyn that just announced he can no longer stand when 8 Democrats stand up in the Congress and walk out on the president of Israel. He can no longer stand being Democrat, and he switched to become a Republican. It is almost a waste of time to try to understand why so many Jewish people vote with a party that seems to not support Israel. I have really no answer for why. My only answer is that we must support candidates that share in our support of Israel, because if we don't do it, nobody else will. And very interestingly, the Christians that you referred to, because they believe so much in the state of Israel as part of their own happiness are very, very powerful in their support of Israel, and in their, when they elect people, that is a priority in their choice of which candidate they select.
Would you tie what's happening now into the quote by Jabotinsky, liquidate the diaspora before the diaspora liquidates us?
Thankfully to Jabotinsky, that quote can be something that we can listen to, but I think his teachings have given us the ability to stand above attacks. But there's no question that Aliyah to Israel and support of Israel is the key solution for people who want to have the continuation of the state of Israel. Then there's a very famous man that my father introduced me to. His name is David Dewinski. He survived 9 concentration camps, and he wrote a book. The title is "And We Are Not Saved." There will always be a threat to us if we let the threat grow. So I do not feel that we are going to be liquidated, but I think that we are not saved.
Very, very heavy. Andrea Spindell asks, was the younger Netanyahu brother, Dr. Ido Netanyahu, also Beitar?
I think it's very, very hard to grow up with the secretary of Zev Jabotinsky and through osmosis not have a connection that is unbreakable with Beitar. Ben-Zion Jabotinsky, in a very soft-spoken, humble way, just by his actions, all 3 sons became lovers of Beitar, lovers of the state of Israel, lovers of the ideals of learning how to protect ourselves. And the greatness of Jabotinsky is that he taught Beitarim to be leaders, not to be followers. And that's why it has evolved that he is the greatest leader, Zionist leader, that has had the most influence, because even in his passing, his leaders that were born from Beitar provide the leadership today, generation from generation, for the state of Israel.
Thank you for that really thoughtful answer. I have some very long questions. Well, why do you think Beitar didn't survive really in America, or are there remnants of Beitar among? I mean, we need our youth to be educated and to learn the lessons that Jabotinsky taught. Where are there facilities? How would you go about doing
There's
that?
an expression that Jabotinsky shared. He said, "From the pit of decay and dust will arise a nation proud, generous, and fierce." The greatest enemy to the Jewish people are the Jewish people. And when there is infighting and when there is 3 Jews in the room and there's 4 opinions, and I think that the silencing of the Beitar movement was caused in the United States from bickering caused really from outside forces. And I feel that it was a very, very tragic time when the continuity of Beitar did not continue. Having said that, we can't live in the past. The only way that we can continue Beitar is to tomorrow, working with Safe Friends, Friends for a Safe Israel, working with other groups to bring a rebirth of Beitar and take that responsibility that is something that has to continue for our youth. And there has to be the ability of someone to take that ownership to bring Beitar back. Ironically, when we have a Beitari as the prime minister, if there was ever a time that we could attempt to achieve this, in my humble opinion, the time is now.
And with that, I want to thank you for, I know you're not a teacher by profession, but for giving us quite a good lesson today.
Thank you.
And we are going to wrap up with Wilma Friedman singing Shir Beitar. For those of you who want to follow along with her singing, here are the words. Wilma, you're unmuted. Wilma, can you unmute yourself? Can I get some tech help?
Ah, got it. Okay, now I could unmute.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Beitar, Migovri Kavon Be'afar, Badami Vayeza, Yukam Geza, Kaon Benadir Be'achsar. Beitar Hanilchada, Yodet Et Masada, Arona Be'ozehada. Adar, Ivri Gam Be'oli Kansar, Im Melech, Atar Gam Melech, Beketer David Etar, Ba'u Vaseter, Zachor Et HaKeter, Ater Et Garon Adar. Adar, Al Kol Ma'atzor U'Metzar, Im Ha'aloteret El Ha'aneret, Ha'esh Le'atzit En Davar, Ki Sheret U'Refesh, Afkel Dam Ha'nefesh, Le'man Hor HaNishtar. Lamut Olichos et Ahar Yodef et Masada Beitar.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us such a fitting ending to today's program. And until our next memorial, I wish everybody well. We will be having many more Zooms coming up, and hopefully some in-person events as well. And you are all welcome to join in. According to our friend from Israel, there is an active Beitar group in Florida, and somebody wrote to me that he'd like to start a group in Tampa, And, you know, I would love to speak with you and see what you're doing. I understand that it takes a lot of, it takes a lot of resources to do it. But I think all of us can agree that it's the time for some unified effort to strengthen the Jewish people in the United States and have them be prouder and stronger. It's time. It's just time. So, shalom l'kulam.
Shalom. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to wish everybody an easy fast if they are fasting this week. And that our prayers should be heard on high, and everything should soon bring us back to Eretz Yisrael.
Amen. Shalom.